Hello everyone, hopefully you're having a good day. Today I will be talking to you about the quadratic formula and teaching you how to use it effectively. So let's get right into it. What is the quadratic formula? Well, the quadratic formula is a formula that provides a solution to a quadratic equation. So, of course, you have to know what a quadratic equation is. Well, the quadratic equation is ax, that means x to the second power, plus bx plus c. And I'll show you some examples of that with actual numbers in it soon. So, now that we know the equation that we're using for the quadratic formula, let's look at the actual formula. So, we use the numbers in the quadratic equation and plug them into the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And you're going to have to use this and write this out so many times that you might as well memorize it now, and you just want to put it in your brain because it will make going through the process of solving the quadratic formula much easier. So that's all the information we need to know right now. So the only thing we can do now is try to work through some problems. The first example, my quadratic equation. So the quadratic equation, like I said before, is ax to the second plus bx plus c. But now with numbers in it, you plug the numbers in for a, b, and c. So 2x squared minus 4x minus 2. So for this first example, we're not actually going to solve it. We're just going to practice plugging it in to the quadratic formula. So like we said before, the quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's practice plugging this in. So as you can see, example 1 here, I'm just going to go through it with you. I already solved it out. I'm just going to show you exactly what I did. So the first thing you have to do is you have to find what is a, b, and c. Well, the first two in the equation, as you can see by the x squared, goes into the a column in the quadratic formula. Next, the negative 4 goes into the b. Lastly, the negative 2 at the very end of the equation goes into c. So the formula would be x equals 4 because negative b, if you plug in a negative 4 for that, the negative turns into a positive because there's two negatives. Plus or minus the square root of, now we're doing the b squared. So for b squared, you want to plug in b, so negative 4 squared minus 4ac. So we already have the 4 there, so then we have to put the a and c. So both a and c, one is 2 and the other is negative 2. And we're just going to put those in parentheses for this problem because I'm just showing you how to plug it, all in. And then you throw all of that over 2a, and a again is 2, so 2 parentheses 2. Alright, not too difficult, just plugging in numbers. Next, for the second example, not only are we going to plug in the numbers, but we are going to actually solve the equation. And this is when it gets a little tougher. So, again, the equation, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So, in this equation, the 3, which is by the x squared, is a. The 4, which is by the x, is b. And finally, the 2, which is by itself, is c. So as you can see here, we have negative 4, because that's negative b, and we plug in the positive 4, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is a 4, so 4 squared, minus 4 parentheses 3, which is the a, and parentheses 2, which is the c, all over 2a, which is 2 times 3, since 3 is the a. Now, to solve this, we just have to do all of the different steps. So first, we keep the negative 4, plus or minus the square root. 4 squared is 16 minus 4 times 3 is 12, and 12 times 2 is 24. So minus 24, all over 2 times 3, which is 6. Next, we're going to simplify everything in the square root. So x equals -4 plus or minus the square root 16 minus 24 is -8, all over 6 though. Now, we're going to simplify the square root more and also simplify the outside because they're both equivalent to. So, let's do the square root first. So the square root can turn into -4 and 2. Now, the -4, when you square root a negative, the negative turns into I, and the square root of 4 is 2. So, 2i square roots of 2, as you can see in the circle. Now, when you also want to simplify the outside, the -4, and now you have a 2, and you also have the 6 at the very bottom of the equation. And you want to divide all of those things by 2. So, the final answer, after dividing everything by 2, is x equals -2 plus or minus I, square roots of 2, all over 3. Now, that may be a lot to know just after that. You have to go through a lot for this, right? So, one example is not enough, so we'll do one more as well. And hopefully this makes more sense to you. So, for the next example, okay. For the next example, so the equation is x squared minus x minus 3. In this one, we're going to move through a little quicker, and it's a little more simple. So, as you can see, when it's x squared, that means there's a 1 in front of that, so a is 1, 2 is -1, and c is 3. So, when you plug it into the equation, it's 1, because b is -1, and a negative times negative is a positive. So, 1 plus or minus b squared, which is 1, plus 4ac. Now, I already worked through this, the example I worked through already. I just went through it because it's mental math pretty much. 4ac. 4 times 1, which is 4, times 3, which is 12. All over 2a. a is 1, so 2 times 1 is 2. Now, to simplify that, you don't have to do much with this equation, which is why this one's a little easier. All you have to do is add inside the square root of 1 plus 12, and that's 13. So that leaves you with your final equation of 1 plus or minus the square root of 13 over 2. Hopefully you understood that, but just to make sure, for classwork, we're gonna work through a few more problems in your book, numbers 5 through 10, which I will show on the board and all the work so you can see if you got them right. And if you got them wrong, you can see why. And then for homework, you're gonna do problems 11 through 18 in your book. Thank you for listening. I hope you learned about the quadratic formula, and let's see how you do.